And we welcome you to United in Liberty Radio, where we discuss all things principle, where we take the stories that go on within our country, within our community, that are on the news headlines, and we identify principles. This is Joe Olivas here with Dustin Harris. Dustin, how you doing this evening?
Good evening to you, Joe. I'm doing great.
You know what? I'm really excited about some of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. Excited for a couple different reasons. One, because they are things that neither you or I have spent a significant amount of time studying before the show, but two, because it's going to be an exercise for our listeners to be able to get comfortable with identifying principles. There's
Speaking of principles, Joe, let's just be honest. We haven't spent any time looking at these.
Well, we've looked at the headlines.
Okay, that's true.
I printed them out, emailed them to you. I just picked up the headlines. The headlines sounded nice and catchy, and I thought some of these headlines sound like violation of principle, to be quite honest with you. But there's going to come a time when an individual is going to say, well, how do I identify the principles? And it's going to mean that individual is going to have to take it upon themselves, take the responsibility to be able to research and study the article or study the issue or the topic of the day, and then deliberately try to identify the principle. Identify and for an individual who's not used to doing that, it's going to take some practice.
Right, and it can be intimidating. I think some people, though they understand the 12 Principles of Liberty, sometimes they look at the 12 Principles of Liberty, study them, educate themselves on them, memorize them, go over them in their head, but then actually taking those 12 principles and then applying them to real-life situations can be intimidating.
Yeah, it really can. I mean, I've had conversations with individuals close to me, members of my own family, who have made comments similar to that, and just have kind of said, "I can't do what you do." And really, what you and I do, Dustin, when we take time to and read through different articles or different things that are going on, and we identify the principles, it's not magic. It's not anything special.
It's just
I don't think it is. I think
I've been doing magic.
You've been telling your kids it's magic.
Yeah.
Maybe for a lot of individuals on the left, it's magic because they don't know what a principle is.
That is correct. Or they may know what a principle is, and their magic is to invent an unprinciple and call it a principle.
Yeah, that's really what takes place.
It's kind of like the national debt, Joe. It's just a myth.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Just ask
I'm
Representative here.
All day talking about. I'm gonna waste. He's gonna waste the next month trying to debunk the myth of the national deficit, and as a result, he'll lose in November.
Well, if our listeners have not seen the YouTube video of Mr. Phil Hare with Fozzie Bear, you're really missing out.
That's something that I'm looking forward to listening to as well. But back to what I was saying earlier with regards to that particular family member, they made the comment, I can't do what you do. And really, it's not. I don't do anything special. All I do is I know what the principles are. I've studied the principles, but now going through and looking at and reading a story or reading something that's going on, I'm looking for the principle. I'm trying to identify what it is, and the more and more you get to do that, the easier it becomes.
Right. One of the funny things is when you start to study and learn about the principles of liberty, you find them not just in government stories, news stories, in the newspaper, on the internet, but you start to find them in your everyday life. In your everyday lives, as far as family, business relationships, friendships, what have you. But here's the funny thing. I have found, I don't just read books. I read books and I mark up books. I can't stand to read a book if I don't have a pen or a highlighter in hand. And as I go through these books, it's interesting to me, and it may be, books on government, it may be books on history, it may be books on business and self-improvement and how to get rich quick, and you name it, I read it. It may be scripture. I find that as I read the books, these principles come out, and I can't help but take my pen and out to the margin write PL number 3 for Principle of Liberty number 3, because I see them in all aspects of life. And that's, as you study the principles of liberty, you start to recognize that they're everywhere.
Yeah, and these principles are not principles of, well, okay, let me rephrase this. I was going to say these principles are not just principles of good government, but They are principles of good government. Good government on a national level, on a state level, on a community level, on a family level, and on a personal level.
Yeah.
These principles apply to every aspect of our lives. That's why you can identify them in different types of books or different types of articles, or even identify them in Scripture. Scripture is very personal to you and I, and personal to millions of Americans across the world and across the country and across the world, millions of people. Those principles exist in Scripture as well, because principles never change. Principles are truths, and because they're truths, you're going to find them in places like Scripture as well as anything else that you read. You'll be able to identify the principle itself. And if it's a nonfiction article or a nonfiction book, you can identify the mindset of the author, whether or not they adhere to principle.
Right. And I think the key word there is governing or government. Sometimes we apply government to city, state, national, what have you. But you're right. Government is really, the root word there is governance. And government occurs in your own life. Government occurs in your business, in your family, in your community, in whatever organization you may be involved in. There's government, and government can only be done properly if you use proper, true principles.
Yeah, exactly. And so, not to stall. I mean, I don't want to stall and appear.
Come on, let's stall.
Well, I don't want to appear to be giving myself time to read through the article because that's not true. I mean, I've read through the first two paragraphs, read them before the break, just because I thought it was funny.
Can you read and talk at the same time?
It's hard. Sometimes it just.
I had to spit my gum out before I started because I can't do that and talk at the same time.
Well, I'm going to give you the headline. This was one that I thought was going to be pretty interesting right from the onset, and so I made sure to email it over to you. It's titled "Going Rogue." No, we're not talking about Sarah Palin, but it's titled "Going Rogue Part 4." Guess what the EPA is going to regulate now? I mean, that already just sounds like a violation of principle.
That jumps off the page. There's no doubt. I mean, when you read a title like that, if our listeners can't all of a sudden, the anti-principle beacon is not going off in their life, then they're not studying principle enough.
Guess what the Environmental Protection Agency is going to regulate now? Mm-hmm. So it's there to protect the environment.
Can we throw out the principle of liberty before we read the article?
Well, 1 through 12.
But I guarantee number 3 is popping off the page here.
Oh, yeah, of course. But here's the funny thing. The Environmental Protection Agency, so it's meant to protect the environment, right? From who? From everybody else.
Except them?
It's meaning we're going to protect the environment from
everyone.
The human being.
Yeah.
Okay, so the EPA is going to regulate us as individuals to protect the environment. So this is the way the article starts out. This was in the Bloomfield Daily Telegraph, and the first 2 paragraphs are pretty funny. Maybe you've seen the email that tells you about a harmful chemical and asks you to sign a petition to ban it. The email tells you that the chemical, dihydrogen monoxide, is the main ingredient in acid rain and is capable of causing suffocation if too much is ingested. Some of the email readers are horrified. They sign the petition and forward their emails to warn others of this great threat. The email is a joke, but the non-chemists among us may not realize it. You see, dihydrogen monoxide is 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen, or H2O. It's water. Okay, now, no, the EPA is not regulating water yet, but this is just illustrating the point.
Catch.
This is just a joke. It's just a hoax email, and just to illustrate a point. And the point is this. The Environmental Protection Agency is proposing stricter standards on another pollutant. Okay, this isn't a joke. Particulate matter, which can foul air and water, cause breathing problems, and impair visibility. What horrible substance is the EPA trying to protect us from now?
This sounds bad, Joe. I think I would sign the petition, send it off.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pollutant. It's a particulate. It messes up the air and the water, causes breathing problems, it impairs visibility.
Definitely something the EPA should take care of.
It's dust. Okay, so the EPA is going to regulate dust.